I'm delighted to welcome everybody to the third annual Energy Innovation Basecamp. For those of you that travelled a long way, had an early start this morning, I hope it wasn't too early, but I can all commend and applaud your commitment. We're going to need that commitment as we go through this energy transition. I'm sure you'll hear more about that from our speakers today. You might be forgiven for thinking that Basecamp is all about the innovation pipeline for energy networks, and to a very large extent, you're right, that's what we're here to do. But today is all about you guys. It's all about everyone in this room having your chance to ask questions about the problem statements, understand the shape and the size of the challenges that are affecting networks, to prod and probe with those questions, and understand the scale and the scope of the solutions that we're looking for. So please do enjoy the day, and please do participate as well. A little bit of housekeeping before I introduce our other speakers. So there are no planned fire alarms, but if there is an alarm, all the exits are marked with green signs. Please do turn your mobile phones on to silent or off. And just to let everybody know, we are recording and taking some photographs today, so please be aware of that as you make your way around. We'll be recording all of the individual presentations as well. So just wanted to make sure everybody was aware. We have 3 sessions of problem statements today. So the first session will be just before the lunch break, and that's across this room, and we also have 2 rooms on the ground floor as well. And you can see the full agenda by following that QR code, and we have screens and agendas up around the event venue as well, so you can find the right room. Following the lunch break, we have lunch laid on for you. We then have 2 additional sessions this afternoon to run through even more problem statements as well. But before that, we have 3 fantastic speakers who are going to set out the context of what we're looking to do. And then I'll be back along with my colleague Nathaniel from the ESC to talk about the process of Basecamp, how you can get involved, how you can participate, and also what makes a really good pitch. So without further ado, I'm delighted to introduce Guy Neely, who is the CEO at the Energy Systems Capital.
Right, quiz. Got some serious energy brains in this room. Can anyone tell me who is James Blythe? Important historical figure in energy. No Googling. James Blythe was the inventor of the wind turbine. So take it back to 1887, July 1887, and James is at his holiday home in Kirk, which is northeast Scotland, and he has put up a 33-foot wind turbine. Historians don't know whether he got any objections from neighbours. He put it up, and it created enough electricity in half a day to power his lighting in his home for 4 nights, he said. So, this was the time of electricity, emerging, super exciting. Suggestion that he got the idea from a lecture from Lord Kelvin at Edinburgh. Scotland was an absolute industrial powerhouse, thinking about all of these challenges. In many ways, that's the kind of spirit of innovation and excitement that we need to capture across the section. I'll talk about that. One just an aside related to that. When he put it up, he had excess wind. We just thought excess wind. So he said to the local community, would it be possible or would you want, I can provide street lighting for the main street in Kirk with my spare electricity. I don't need that much, only got a few lights going on, and battery. And they said, no, we don't want that electricity. That is the devil's work. And it's glad that we've moved on in 120 years and people now welcome electricity infrastructure at every part of the country going forward. I'm going to talk about what work we need in innovation terms if we're serious about net zero. Now I know the focus of today is around the network side. I'm going to step back and think about what the needs are. And there's 3 things. We've got stuff we've got to implement, stuff we've got to get on as quickly as possible. We've got areas we want to innovate in, and there's the integration challenge, which is as big as heat networks, solar farms, offshore wind, electricity network reinforcement. Might be a surprise to lots of the people in this room. In all worlds of the future, whether it's a doubling, a tripling, or even more, if all of these data centres are going to come through, we absolutely need to get on with electricity network reinforcement. Heat networks, how are those going to integrate with the electricity system is an absolutely essential question. And by the way, we're going to need a lot of kind of molecular storage going forward. And what are the big areas of innovation? Well, look at this long list going on here, everything from CCUS to domestic flexibility and non-domestic flexibility, role of large nuclear, the potential for negative emissions technologies. This is if you're in innovation space like we are at the Catapult, that is a fantastic list to kind of attack. It should be some of the projects that you guys should be thinking about. But I would say that integration of the energy system, traditionally very siloed, electricity, heat, transport, etc. That integration challenge is as big an innovation challenge as any of the kind of technology challenges that were listed on the previous slide. And that's pretty huge, by the way. So that is about planning. Already had some conversations this morning about how we get local, regional, national planning working together. What should be in planning? What should be in planning? All of those questions. It's got to work for the most vulnerable. I think some networks do some absolutely fantastic work. Think about vulnerability. We're at Catapult doing work in that area. You've got to get things like markets right, incentives, digital infrastructure, and data is absolutely essential. The huge progress that's been made over the last 5 or 6 years is fantastic. We're still not going anywhere near quick enough. And then you've got to think about supply chains, all the other aspects going forward. Now, it's really important to say that whilst the electricity system will be likely growing very, very significantly, the kind of scenarios out to the future really do prefer multi-vector systems as they move forward. They like and put those in, but we're not set up for that. So in thinking about how the different trade-offs between the areas is a real potential area for innovation. These are all our different scenarios. The names are clockwork, dreamwork, homework, and patchwork, and you can look at the detail there. Dreamwork is the kind of, we're going to have flying taxis, guys. Let's think about the opportunity, which sounds ridiculous and always gets a chuckle, and then you spend some time with innovators who are doing some incredible stuff around this. I'm not going to talk about the energy systems Catapult, but I am going to talk about what the kind of heart of how we approach these problems, which is thinking about the whole system together. Something the energy industry absolutely needs to do if it's going to solve those challenges and meet the government's ambition. It's about thinking about the sources of energy through the pipes and wires, through the buildings, the state of the buildings, to those annoying people on the other side of the meter. Load as we should call them. Think about electricity, heat, and transport, how they're breaking down those silos is already happening, and how all of these systems, physical system, the policy system, the digital system, all work together. So this is just a provocation. This was me last night throwing down the kind of projects that I think should work on, and Nathaniel from my team will be around if you want to follow up on those. There are loads of great ideas work that are being bubbled up here, and the opportunity for the innovators here and getting the most brilliant work coming through, and I know there's lots of great innovators in this world, SMEs, founders who are trying to navigate this space. These are some of the ideas. Flexibility, absolutely huge topic. How do we make sure it's delivered? How might we interact heat networks with the wider system? That last mile of flex is going to be really important. The planning question, how do we get all these acronyms to join up so that we're actually doing the right thing on planning? Digitalisation I've talked about, huge opportunity, great progress, but so much more to do. And that little challenge of how we get the kind of companies we're excited about, the Catapult, how do we get that into business as usual? How do we get them into projects is the kind of thing we think should be focusing on. I will stop there. I'm always happy to talk about James Blythe, so come and grab me later. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. new faces amongst us today, bringing new ideas into our energy system, as well as those familiar friends as well, back again for another round. So really good to see you all here. Another familiar friend, I'm delighted to say that Ofgem have supported Basecamp from its inception, and Sam is here to talk to us to give Ofgem's perspective on innovation. Over to you, Sam.
Thanks very much, Dan, and thanks to all of you for coming today. It's really, really great to be here. It's quite hard to follow a speech which has, electricity being the devil's work, but let's see what I can do. And all those fantastic stats and ambitions that we need to follow up on. So, first of all, hello. This is the new Ofgem slide deck, so always reminds me to say hello, which is great. Anyway, to dive straight into it, guys, I really hope we can all embrace innovation today. I was really delighted that the first chat I had of the whole day was with a really nice chap called Simenon and some of the things he's trying to grapple with. So what I thought it might be quite nice to do at the start is, if you've got a very exciting idea, if you're an innovator and you really want to speak to a network today, could you stand up and give a nice cheesy wave so everyone knows that they need to speak to you, if you're feeling brave? Simonon's done it already. Very good, awesome. I know that's all a bit cringe, guys. I'm not going to be as smooth as these people here, but let's all talk to each other. Let's have fun with it, okay? Cool. Right. So just before I dive into Ofgem's view, as you can imagine with this sort of thing, I was doing my slides on the train yesterday, but it was before I sent them to Ollie for this, and I thought to myself, wow, okay, it's a really big landscape that we've all got to work in. There's a lot of brilliant work going on, but as we can see from this, there's a lot going on here, and it's really important that we all work together. So if you've got ideas today over how we can do that, whether that's for me from Ofgem or for anybody really, let's talk about it. Let's see how we can get there together. We've got really ambitious targets, such as NISO's CP 2030 plan. I know NISO are here today, so maybe ask them questions as well, how we can get there. Cool, and now just talk briefly about innovation at Ofgem. So this is Ofgem's Innovation Hub. We have all these services which you guys can tap into to learn a bit more, but what we really want to do is embed innovation across the system and get things moving in a better, faster, more smoother way, all for the benefit of the energy consumer. I think we all want that, but I think we're often grappling on exactly how might we do that better. So here are some of our services. And very briefly, because I lead on the Strategic Innovation Fund, so I was always kind of going to talk about this. So this is our Strategic Innovation Fund. If you haven't engaged with it before, it's basically about funding strategic, ambitious projects that are going to help change the game a little bit, how do we push things further and faster. It's part of our RIIO-2 price controls. We have 3 different layers of projects. We have discovery projects, which are up to 150,000, alpha projects, which are up to 500,000, and beta projects, where there's no upper limit, but that's really when we're looking to see how do we get things into business as usual processes afterwards, how do we get things deployed. So please come and talk to me about that if you have an interesting idea, or if you have an idea of how it can run better, or indeed a complaint, I really want to make this better, so don't be shy, please come and talk to me about it. But just some highlights so far, what we've done on SIP. So here are just some numbers, not as many numbers as Guy had, I have to admit, but hopefully some indicative numbers of what we're looking to do here. And finally, just to recap some things that we're really keen on pressing next. We've got our round 5 challenges for the SIF coming up, and we really want to hear what you think. So my next slide will have a QR code which you can all scan. So you're not normally meant to do this at conferences, but do get your phones out in a moment so you can scan the QR code. Next, we also have our RIIO-3 proposals, which is how in the next price control, how can we make innovation better? We want to do what we can to support you guys as the regulator. So don't be shy, be imaginative, tell me what you think. And we'll also have other ways with which you can engage with us in the coming weeks and months as well. And finally, just in time for Valentine's Day, We've got the SIF governance consultation coming up tomorrow. I know, one absolute treat. And just to reassure everybody, this is just a light touch consultation on how we improve things for Rio 2, just to see how we can make the innovators journey smoother for right now. So that's the sort of right now what we're trying to do. But probably more interesting will be to talk to me about one or two the Brown Fund challenges and the Rio 3 proposals. So as promised, here's a QR code for you all to scan now. So I'll pause for a moment, and I'm going to be a bit cringe again. I'm going to ask Beth Foster to stand up. She's here and she's leading on the Brown Fund challenge process, so go speak to her as well. I think I've given everybody enough time to scan that QR code. Looking around, all the phones. Someone taking a selfie over there, I'm not sure. Cool. I'll just pause a moment. I think that's done. Great. Look, thank you very much for listening to me. Really looking forward to talking to as many of you today as I can. Please come with loads of questions, gripes, whatever you would like, but I hope we can all engage in a really positive spirit for today. And big thanks to Dan and his team for putting this event on for us. So thank you very much, everybody. And I hand over to Jodie now, so we'll do that.
Morning, everybody. How are you all? Great. Guys, you ready? You hyped up? You've got loads of energy? I'm hoping. I feel like I've just had some hype guys do my hyping for me, which is really nice. Lovely to see.
Sam, did you take the clicker with you?
Sam, really clever. Look at that. I need that.
I wasn't ready to let it go.
Great hyping. My name's Jodie Giles. I'm Deputy Director of the Ofgem Strategic Innovation Fund at Innovate UK. And I'm really delighted to be here. Thank you so much, Dan and the ENA, for organising this. It's super, super important to me that we all get together face-to-face once in a while and get in a room together and focus on how we can collaborate better to answer some of those big challenges that we've just talked about. So we've had the innovators in the room stand up. Where are the networks? Can you give me a big wave if you're a network? Okay, interesting. All right, cool. It's good to know. There's innovators here, there's networks here, there's engineering and design consultancies here. You are the right people, and you are in the room today to collaborate, and we really, really want to drive that home. Climate change is absolutely urgent, and we all need to speed up how we're delivering these projects and improve that pace, up our game, and do things really differently. And the problems that we're going to look at today and the innovation projects we work on, they require the best of us. If we can't step up and lead this transition, then we're not going to achieve our net zero by 2030, or clean power by 2030 and net zero by 2050 targets. And those are absolutely critical to us addressing that massive climate change challenge. So absolutely, let's do this. We are the right people, and we need to make this happen, because the projects that we are working on are right at the forefront of how we're going to change our energy system, and that's fundamental to how we do this. So yeah, just wanted to start with that before I get into some of the things we want to talk about today. So Sam's already covered a bit of this, but one of the things that we want to do with the Strategic Innovation Fund is we want to make sure that the benefits are realised and real, and so we're doing a lot of work at the minute on those early indications of benefits. So far we estimate we've got 2.6 billion of potential cost savings by 2035, 7.1 million tonnes of CO2 equivalent abatement by 2035. We've funded over nearly 250 projects now. That's 235 million. So this is huge investment in the people that are driving the change in this sector. The SIF is a 5-year partnership between Innovate UK and Ofgem. We're over halfway through that now. And yeah, I'm really proud of what the team have managed to achieve together. We collaborate really well across Ofgem and the Innovate UK team to make this happen. And we're also really grateful to all of the great partners in the room. How many of you have had some SIF funding? Give me a wave. Yeah, okay, so in way more than half of you. And how many of you never even heard of the SIF? Great, awesome, that's brilliant. So yeah, as I say, our vision and mission is really important to us. You know, we're here to accelerate the UK's transition to net zero at least cost to the consumer. And we have this kind of triple bottom line challenge that we're trying to deal with through our purpose. So we're really here to make sure that the innovations that we fund deliver benefits for people, our planet, businesses. And we also have this opportunity to make the UK a global innovation hub. You know, we have a powerhouse of innovation in this country. We've got all of you guys working on these incredible projects to change this sector and improve what this sector does for people. You know, networks exist to serve the people who pay for them, and they make our society function, they make it better, and we have a huge potential opportunity to increase and grow businesses and scale businesses who are developing new innovations which provide solutions to some of the problem statements we're going to talk about today. So there's a huge, huge opportunity there. Where are we at the moment? Well, last year we moved to a multiple application process. So one of the things we heard from you was that the process was too slow. So we completely revamped the process, we ripped it up, we started again. We've now got 3 application processes a year. We are in cycle 2 of that at the moment. So at the moment applications are open for cycle 2 and they close on the 26th of February. That's for round 3 betas and for round 4 discovery alpha and beta. We're going to talk about those rounds in a bit more detail in a minute. It's also really worth saying you don't have to spend years developing your ideas and perfecting it before you submit an application. The whole point in the process is that if you've got an innovative idea, you can test it, discovery fast, fail fast, you know, find out what works, fail fast. If it's not a good idea, that's what money is for, to take those risky decisions about projects and then move on to alpha and beta. And you can go straight into alpha or beta at any point as well. So you don't have to spend years progressing through those phases if you know you've got a project that's ready to take to market. I guess the other thing about this process, just before I move on, is that we've really radically stepped up our own ability to assess applications in a more proportionate way. So we've really sped up how much time we are taking to get back to you. And it's a really, involved process assessing these applications. We have technical experts, we have Ofgem subject matter experts, we've got our own innovation leads scrutinising these projects and making sure we're making the best investments possible with bill payers' money. So round 5 challenges. Sam's mentioned this already, but challenge setting is absolutely about engaging and building consensus on the key problems that we're trying to solve with this massive bill payer investment that we're making. And if we review, we've done a review of the past year. So some of the work that Guy talked about has fed into this. We've looked at NESO's Clean Power Plan, we've looked at the DESNE's Clean Power 2030 Action Plan, and we've looked at what all of the people in the sector who write reports about what the current problems are, and done a huge assessment of all of that work, which filters into this process. But we've also gone out to market and gathered ideas and spoken to over 100 people so far. So, or actually no, it's over 100 ideas that have been put forward, so way more than 100 people that we've spoken to. This process is really involved, and there is an opportunity for everyone to participate in it. And I really want to stress that, because this isn't about what are our problems on the SIP, this is about what are our problems as a sector, and what are the key problem statements that we need to work on this year, and how do we make sure we narrow those down and focus our investments in the best and most impactful areas. So Beth, who is over there in the green, is here today. I'm here today, Sam's here today. Any of you want to talk to us about that challenge setting process, please do. Were any of you at the workshop on Tuesday for networks? Yeah, a couple of you, yeah. So that was a really awesome workshop. We went out to the market and talked to lots of people who already benefit from our funding. And they came forward with lots of really interesting ideas, things that we've fed into this process, and we've basically shortlisted it down to these 10 areas which represent the emerging priorities. So this is a kind of sneak peek. Again, you're going to have I was really struggling to read this when I was like this morning. I was like, oh, yeah, really should have brought my glasses. But these 10 areas represent the emerging priorities that you are telling us are the key problems that we need to work on now. And it's also worth saying most of these problems are going to be beyond 2030 problems because innovation takes time. You know, if you think about the innovation cycle, it isn't just do it in a couple of years. Usually it's a bit more protracted than that. But it is possible that we might have a short-term challenge as well. But that, you know, trying to solve and address climate change doesn't stop in 2030, so what are the problems that we are still going to be facing beyond 2030 is really the question. And it's very difficult to get your mind out of today's problems into that future space, but that is really what we're trying to do here. So, as I say, this is the kind of sneak peek of the 10 areas that we've defined down to through this process. The process is still ongoing. You have an opportunity to feed into it through that QR code or talking to Beth or myself or Sam. And yeah, at the moment we're down to these 10, which will be narrowed down to 4 soon. So, accelerating network connections and capacity expansion. That's the key one. It's been there for years, it's still a problem. It's probably still going to be a problem beyond 2030. Next generation grid technology. So this is stuff like SMR, small modular reactor integration, superconductors and semiconductors, power electronics. There's loads of potential in that space. Supporting local and industrial decarbonisation. So 50% of the UK industrial emissions come from dispersed sites and harder to decarbonised sectors. And that could also include grid integration challenges. Moving to real-time grid monitoring and optimisation. So we've got so many projects in the portfolio at the minute which are looking at this, that this is still a real opportunity. Gas network decarbonisation and transition. So the UK gas network deliver 3 times the energy of the electricity networks today. And so transitioning through that and making sure we deal with that integration challenge that Guy talked about is absolutely fundamental. Accelerating key energy network skills and capability needed to achieve CP 2030 and net zero. You know, we know we have a skills shortage, but we are assessing these all the time against our criteria of, you know, is this a SIF problem? Is it going to deliver value to the bill payer? All of those kind of assessment criteria that we're looking at. Behavioural insights and demand side flexibility. So we know we have high potential for flexibility, but we're not really accessing it. We know the uptake has been pretty slow, and there's lots of consumer participation barriers. Energy system resilience, long duration storage for local and system flexibility, and scaling up flexibility. So this gives you a kind of idea of some of the things that we're thinking about in our narrowing down process. In terms of our publication dates, you know, this is going to be published between 18th and 20th of March. So Beth and PA Consulting, so Manu, if any of you know Manu from the team previously, he's involved in delivering this again this year. And we're more than halfway through this process now, but as I say, there's still opportunity to get involved. Here's how you can get involved. There's that QR code again, in case you missed it. We've already had loads of responses, which is incredible. Thank you. Power of technology, who would have thought it? And then, of course, challenge setting is only the start. You know, we then have to build consortia and explore these transformational projects, get people working together in a completely different way. And one of our ambitions on the SIF is to up that new entrant innovator coming into the sector and working with networks and bringing that enthusiasm and the power of new ideas and transformative ideas, and also accelerating the pace of how we work, because it can feel quite slow sometimes. So, you know, facilitating that is a really big part, and that's what ideation is all about. We had an approach in the past which hasn't actually delivered the outcomes we were seeking, and so we're having a new approach this year, which is throughout the year, and it will involve lots more engagement with more diverse parties. You know, hopefully it's going to reduce some of the stages for you, so the admin burden and the you know, time it takes to engage in processes like this for you. But it's also about upping the quality. We're really focused on quality of projects. We're much more interested in what are the transformative projects that are going to really move the dial here. So our ideation process timeline is up on the board. Have a look at that. We will be at All Energy Week and Utility Week in person, so come and talk to us at those. We'll also be running other technical webinars. You'll be sent these slides. If you've got any questions or you want to engage in this process, then please go and talk to Serene. Her email is on this slide, and she's leading this process this year. And if you want to find out more, we're constantly trying to communicate out the great work that is going on in this programme. So we've recently published our SIF project directory, which is all our projects in one place, categorised into thematic areas. It's just published yesterday. Our annual report from last year is a much deeper dive into some of that. So it's starting to answer some of the questions about what we're learning through this portfolio and bringing that together into ways that can help not just policymakers and regulators, but innovators as well, understand what we've done before and what the existing problems that we need to solve might still be remaining. We've got podcasts, we've got a newsletter. Our newsletter is probably one of the main ways we communicate out our funding rounds. So if you want to know when the funding is coming and you want all of our diary of what's happening, then that's the way to get that. So please sign up to that. And of course you can go to our website. So that's pretty much it for me. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks again, Ian and Dan, for hosting. And do come talk to us. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Jodie. I know just how hard that Jodie and the team are working on evolving the SIF fund and how focused they are on getting it right for all parties. So it's brilliant to bring that here and showcase all those changes that are happening here at Basecamp. Okay, I want to just spend a few minutes now talking through the process. We've heard about SIF funding. There are other funding streams available as well. And of course, if you have a solution that's ready to go, potentially networks will just buy it as it is. So don't worry too much about the funding stream. What we want to talk about today is those problems. I'm just going to flash that agenda up again in case everybody didn't get a chance to see it. But yeah, to talk you through the process. So today we want to, as we've heard, hear from you. We want you to participate and engage in the process. There's lots of really fantastic, clever people in the room, from networks, innovators. Let's get those conversations going. Not just during the sessions, we also have plenty of networking time in the breaks, at lunch, and then we've reserved the last couple of hours here in this room and outside in the foyer for you to continue those discussions. And you may have noticed there's some stands out there as well, so some of the networks have brought some stands, so you have a focal point if you want to speak to a particular network, you can head over to those exhibition spaces there. So let's talk through the process. This is the Basecamp, the start of the journey at the foot of the mountain. And so you are all here at this Basecamp launch today. And the next step is for, once you've had a chance to review those problem statements and come up with your ideas, you can submit proposals onto our Smarter Networks portal. A bit more on that in a moment. And that portal is open now for your proposal and will stay open for the next 5 weeks. So please do head over to the Smarter Networks portal. There's lots of information on there, not just about how to get involved in Basecamp, but also we have a repository of 2,800 live and previous projects that you can look through to see what's already happened in that space. Lots of other information about our innovation strategy, our innovation process, and upcoming events as well. Once you've submitted your proposals, the networks will take a few weeks to review and triage them. And then for those that are ready to move forward to the next stage, you'll be invited to a pitching session, which we actually host at Twickenham Stadium, which is a fantastic backdrop for a pitching session. And you'll be allocated a slot across a series of days in May. And then it's on to project contracting and project delivery. So it's a time to hold your nerve when you're going through project contracting. I was talking today to one of the networks at MPG. They had a problem statement last year and they've just kicked off now in recent weeks that project called Power Wheels. It's about supporting customers with mobility constraints, working with Motability and the Centre for Energy Equality to support the customers there and help them try and reduce their bills by offering lots of vehicle-to-home solutions, vehicle-to-X solutions. So it can take a while to get through that project contracting phase, but hold your nerve, it is worthwhile at the end, and there's lots of fantastic projects in the pipeline, not just from last year, but from previous years as well. And once you're approaching the conclusion, you've journeyed your way up the mountain, you've tried out those different pathways, we'll get back together this year in Glasgow in November to talk through the projects that have then reached the summit, have reached that peak, and they're ready to talk about their learning. So a fantastic opportunity to get back together with people in the room, hopefully lots of new faces as well, talk about your innovation ideas, and talk about the success stories from innovation as well. Ofgem will be there, I'm sure lots of others around this room will be there as well, and we'll be focusing on some of the policy asks, some of the strategy going forward for future years. So well worth putting that event in your calendar. Back to today. As we've said, and as we've already seen, it's a time to raise hands and ask questions. Fantastic to get so much participation in those earlier sessions. Lots of people raising their hands and asking questions. And we do have some roaming microphones in those sessions as well for your questions. But if you don't want to, or you're not able to ask a question in that way, then we also have a Slido for you to ask your questions digitally. So you head over to slido.com. It seems to be the day for QR codes, so there's another QR code for you to put on there, or it is just slido.com using the participation code Basecamp 25, and then there are a series of rooms in there, so you can select the room that you're in, ask your questions, and the facilitator in that room will read them out. So multiple ways to participate, and of course, as we said before, also you can participate during the breakout sessions, the lunch break, and in that networking session at the end. I said I'd talk a little bit about the Smart Networks Portal. This really is your window into network innovation. So projects that have come before, projects that are coming up, projects that are in flight, and how to get involved in events and all of that good stuff. Loads of project documentation there, so I highly recommend you head over to the Smart Network Portal to find out more. And as you can see there, the portal is already open for 2025 applications. So just below the fold, if you scroll down a little bit, you'll get to that section, and you can submit your proposal right now. I'm going to end, just before we introduce Nathaniel, I'm going to end with my 3 top tips for success in this process. Firstly, it's really important that you research previous projects in this area. There's been a lot of innovation happening, fantastic innovation supported by the CIF and by NEAR funds. All of those projects are on the Smart Networks Portal, so please do read through, see what's happened so far, see where the gaps are, and hopefully that will help you generate some ideas about where your solution can fill a gap. It's really important to understand the nature of what's being asked through these pregnant statements. So today, ask lots of questions, understand what solutions are being requested, plenty of opportunities to ask those questions, and most importantly, we want you to bring your ideas to the project. This isn't about researching a problem, this is about, I've got an idea on how to solve this problem. So your proposals, your pitches, they really need to include your IP, things that you've developed independently that you can bring to the network. We want those ideas into the pipeline. So those are my 3 top tips. But to talk more about how to write a good pitch and all that good stuff, we have Nathaniel from the Energy Systems Capital. So welcome him to the stage. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, Dan. Thank you for the warm words. It's great to see so many people, both familiar and not. So it's my pleasure to come and give you a couple of thoughts on how to write a good pitch. So when Dan first asked me to come speak, I thought, right, I'll just hit the commercial slide deck, take out the ones, this is a marketing pitch, right? So hopefully I don't have too many slides and I can get onto some interesting content for you. So probably going to do that one. Just wanted to reiterate in my first slide, as Guy was sort of talking about this morning, our mission at Catapult is to accelerate net zero innovation. That's why we're here, and that's our role within the energy innovation ecosystem. And it's a difficult mission, it's not easy, there's many challenges and bumps in the road, and at times it can feel quite frustrating, but and as we head towards Clean Power 2030, we've got to not forget that what we're really trying to achieve is net zero, and we've got to think about what innovations that we are putting in place. Just a question, just to make sure that they're going to put us on the right journey, on the right pathway, in order to reach our target to get to net zero. So this is just a quick slide. Guy was over earlier, but I won't spend too long on it. We were launched by Innovate UK in 2015. So one thing Guy didn't mention in his talk is that this year we're going to be 10 years old as an organisation. So we're kind of super happy may have seen, we put out a video on LinkedIn. I believe it's up there, so come and please check that out. We've grown quite a lot over those last 10 years. We are now just over 300 people based in Birmingham. We're about 12 minute walk away, just the other side of New Street from here. And as I mentioned earlier, we were set up to accelerate UK's transformation to net zero. We are independent, not-for-profit, centre of excellence, and we offer services here to help innovators, network operators, people like yourselves in achieving success. And we have a number of kind of capabilities in that area, from business model innovation, a number of test facilities around Living Lab and whole systems energy accelerator, WESA. So please come and speak to me today. I'll be here all day if you're interested to hear a little bit more about those. We at Catapult, we really believe that whole system thinking is kind of super important. We're not going to reach net zero unless we consider the whole energy system all the way across, from electricity to gas to future gases, hydrogen, digitalisation, markets, policy, along with understanding the consumer. And we can't forget that we need to put the consumer at the centre of the transformation. We're all consumers here, we're all bill payers, and we are really looking to achieve net zero, not just for the environment as well, but also we need to make sure that we bring everyone along on that journey with us. So I just thought, last corporate slide I promised, I just wanted to put a kind of couple of key projects that we've been delivering over the last 10 years. Guy talked about it earlier. Our kind of key publication last year was Innovating to Net Zero 2024, and Guy put a couple of headline facts around that in his opening talk about what we think are kind of critical technologies that will take us to 2050, where we need more innovation, and really where we see kind of you guys coming in and playing a role in that. We've also released our enabling distributed flexibility for net zero. This considers how we can achieve a more flexible energy system from the consumer perspective, from the digitalisation perspective, from the markets perspective, and of course not forgetting from the power system perspective. So we hope you enjoy these reports, and yeah, again, any questions, please come and speak to us on that. I just wanted to highlight, along with Power Works, a couple of other success stories in Basecamp. So I believe that Basecamp has unlocked over 3 million worth of innovation funding, which I think for 3 years is pretty significant really, and I hope this third Basecamp will be no different, and next year an even larger number will be able to be put on the screen. So this is a great initiative to bring together network operators with innovators to really solve some of these pressing challenges that will enable us to achieve Clean Power 2030 and net zero. So kind of key message from ourselves today is that we really need to implement, being the first step. We have the technologies available today that will enable us to get to Clean Power 2030 net zero. We just need to work out how to deploy them. These technologies exist, they are market ready. There is some innovation around the price point potentially, and there's lots of integration challenges around bringing them into the system. But fundamentally, we have all the technologies that we need to enable a net zero energy system. And really, we should be looking at these kind of least regrets technologies and rolling them out at pace if we are to reach our targets. And the second area is where there are still challenges, and lots of challenges exist. We need to innovate in those areas. So, for example, CCUS, still quite nascent. We've got kind of the role of gas, what the future role of gas is, along with also other technologies like small modular reactors, SMRs. And as I mentioned earlier, it's kind of key to make sure that we're integrating these technologies together from a whole system perspective, to make sure that we reach a low-cost energy system and we are driving through efficiencies. Now, I believe now that the time is now for demand flexibility, and as once was said by Julian Leslie, then naturally ESO, but now, of course, as we all know, NISO. Julian mentioned that by the end of this decade, we won't be dispatching generation to meet demand, as we have done for the last 40, 50, 100 years. We'll be dispatching demand to meet generation. And I think that's a really important consideration. There's going to be a paradigm shift in how the energy system operates as we move from a supply side dispatch to a demand side dispatch. This brings along a lot of challenges. We go from having few very large suppliers that we ramp up and down to meet demand to having many thousands, if not maybe millions of assets spread across the energy system that we need to coordinate, aggregate and bring together if we are to enable more intermittent, variable, renewable sources to be the centre of our energy mix. This brings with it huge opportunities, and it's great to see that flexibility is still on the kind of SIF challenge areas, potential for round 5. And I think delivering a low-cost flexible energy system is one of the biggest innovation opportunities that exists today, and integrating that into the energy system is going to be critical, as said before, if we are going to meet Clean Power 2030. And I see that there's kind of 3 pathways that could be taken from now, and I hope that we take the first pathway. So we've got some challenges ahead with ensuring that the grid is fit to enable the transition, and the kind of first pathway that we can take is that network reinforcement will of course be a critical factor to enabling a more flexibility energy system. And what we ideally hope is that network reinforcement goes in lockstep with LCT demand increase. And I don't know, you probably can't read the words, are too small, but you may see there's a little asterisk by LCT demand increase, because that's considering both the growth in LCTs and the flexibility that these assets can provide. And we mustn't forget that these are dispatchable assets with the right markets in place, with the right innovations in place, then we can minimise the amount of network reinforcement, but we still need some. There's a second middle pathway that we might see where constraints in the energy network start to stifle decarbonisation. And we've got to be careful. We don't want capacity issues, grid connection constraints tailoring back our rapid pace of decarbonisation. So we really need to make sure that the grid is able to accept these new demands and generation technologies to allow us to meet our objectives. And now there's a third pathway, which is again another potential option, that if decarbonisation happens ahead of reinforcement, that we are potentially putting the network at risk of reducing our security of supply, potential risks of outages on the network. So we do need to be careful and kind of innovate along the way. But I think before we start to bring solutions, we must first understand the problems that we are looking to solve. And I just put a kind of framework up here, which we use as a catapult to really make sure that we understand the problem that we're looking to present a solution to. And as Einstein once said, he understood the importance of really assessing the problem, and he was spent 59 minutes, he only had 1 hour left, and then 1 minute to resolve the issue. And along with this, I believe that kind of stakeholder engagement is really critical to understand the problem, and we need to consult with a wide range of stakeholders, make sure that we understand their views, their challenges, that they see to bring a solution that works for everyone. And then in case it's back to that classic divergent thinking, to really think about, go outside of our kind of risk tolerance, to make sure that we kind of are thinking of everything possible, even if the idea seems completely absurd. We never know, that might be the one that we choose. And of course, once we've kind of got our solution framework or our solutions, we need to make sure that we can measure and really understand and really check that these solutions are achieving the benefits that we hope to kind of receive. And once we're sure that we're on the right pathway, then it is deploy, influence, and create that impact across the system. So I've put a few thoughts together around once we have articulated or once we have identified the solution or identified the problem that we are looking to solve, then here are kind of 8 points which the observant may notice that these have been lifted from the SIF governance eligibility criteria. So it's really important to make sure that, as was mentioned by Dan earlier, that we do research into what these innovation competition funds are looking for. And I'll just summarise those points. So I guess the first is to make sure that we're addressing the innovation challenge or problem statement that has been set out in front of us. We need to kind of clearly articulate how our solution kind of will achieve and solve that issue that has been put forward by the network operators. Now, of course, I think the second point, really important, is around consumer benefits. We're all energy consumers of one form or another. We're all paying for these innovations, so we have a duty to ourselves to make sure that these innovations provide us benefits, and along with other kind of citizens and consumers. And especially we need to make sure that we are thinking about those consumers that are less fortunate, maybe in energy poverty, and really struggle to meet their energy bills. So anything that can do to bring consumer benefits to reduce cost for us and everyone in the system is super important. Of course, that any solution needs to bring network innovation. That's why we're here today. We want to make things better, we want to solve those problems, and we want to take risks to find new ways of working in order to reach our objectives of cleaning up our energy system. And we must remember that we should make sure that we do not reduce the competitive of the markets that we have set up. A competitive market helps us identify various efficiencies and bring us kind of the lowest price point, so we mustn't undermine these. And of course, I mentioned earlier, kind of taking risks is kind of really critical if we are to make these big leaps forward. But we must also learn from previous projects that have happened before us, and so it's important that we do our research, that we make sure we understand what innovations have happened already, and what learning we can take forward. We've got limited resources available, so we want to make sure that we are kind of using the time and the resources available in the best way possible. Of course, stakeholders, I mentioned earlier in how we define what the problem is. Stakeholder engagement is critical, making sure we're bringing the right people along with us on this journey, making sure that we are consulting, learning from, and ensuring their expertise can be integrated into our innovation. And along with that, it is important to think about who are the stakeholders that we need to engage with, that need to be perhaps part of our project consortium. I think this will sort of help in ensuring our innovations are deliverable. And the kind of last 2 points really goes back to, well, the first, value for money. We need to make sure that solutions that are being put forward are value for money, and that will help the first point around ensuring that we are delivering consumers benefits. Again, we are all paying for these innovations through kind of our energy bills, so we do need to make sure that it's fit for purpose. And of course, it goes without saying that a good project plan will lead to a good project. So planning is critical in this, and we can take risks in the innovations that we deliver, but we want to make sure that we take risks in a structured, well-planned, thought through and well-managed way, which is why having kind of a well-planned and achievable project in an allocated budget So I just wanted to highlight around the communication piece. It's critical that networks are communicating with innovators and vice versa, and that's why an event like this is so important, bringing both parties into the same room. And we really need more of these types of events throughout the year. I think the next big there are a number of DNA conferences, so I certainly recommend signing up to those, along with the key conference in the year, the Energy Innovation Summit, which I believe is in November this year. So yes, we need to make sure that we are regularly communicating throughout the year. And I think there's a role for both network operators and innovators. Network operators has a responsibility on making sure that they are effectively communicating what the problems are within the networks, what are their big challenges, because without this communication, it's very difficult for innovators to understand what solutions might work to solve these problems. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done around how do we remove barriers to enable these innovations to reach business as usual. So, for example, there's barriers in procurement, contracting. These are all challenges for SMEs that I think we all recognise, and we're all working hard to make sure that the innovation journey is as smooth as possible, because it's the outcomes that we really want to achieve. And we need to, continue breaking down those silos, fostering collaboration, making sure that we're delivering a whole systems response. But it's not just on the network operators. Innovators also have a role within this as well. I think it's really important that innovators do their research and understand their energy system and network operators, what motivates, what drives network operators, what the regulatory framework that network operators need to work within, because innovation is still bounded by network operator system boundary and where they can operate. And I think, again, as I mentioned earlier on the previous slide, I can't stress enough how important it is that submissions are directly relevant to the problem statements or innovation challenges being set up, and research previous innovation projects. I think if there's one thing you take away from this talk, I would say that's probably the key point, is to make sure that we are researching and making sure that we're not duplicating. So I've got a few further thoughts on points to consider when writing our proposals. Important to speak the language of network operators. They are the ones that are reviewing the proposals ultimately, and if the right language is not being used within the solutions, then probably a high chance that the innovation won't be taken forward. Research, innovation, all network operators publish innovation strategies. Take a look at those and make sure that they're fully understood. Got real business plans, also key source of information for what network operators want to achieve within the price control period. And just highlight the ENA Innovation Smart Networks portal. There's a huge resource with, probably all the innovation projects that we've done in the last 15 years. Along with, there's a lot of documentation on there, a lot of reports, probably too much for an individual to digest, but still an important repository, and where I would say that's probably the first place that you want to start once you've identified a solution. And again, the key question is just think about how would the solution benefit the network operator and energy consumer, as I mentioned earlier. I think language is key here. Best to use simple language that can be understood by everyone. Best not to assume subject matter expertise within responses. We don't really know who will be reading these responses within organisations, and we all have our own individual expertise within our area. So it's good to make sure that we are communicating effectively. And important to focus the response on the network operators, not just ourselves as innovators. Really need to communicate why the solution will help the network operator solve their problem, and ensure key messages are clear, and really ask ourselves what the key message is when writing a solution. Now, not everything will be eligible for SIF funding, but there might be other funding routes. So Innovate UK is here today, so I think they will be able to advise on if it's not suitable for off-gen funding or for network innovation funding, then there might be another competition that you could enter your innovation into. And so these competitions are released throughout the year. And then finally, I just wanted to end on that the transition to clean power 2030 and 2050 net zero economy is an unparalleled economic opportunity, and to capture it, we're going to need extraordinary levels and speed of innovation. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Nathan. A really comprehensive overview there of what needs to be done to give your ideas the best chance of success when you submit them through the Basecamp proposal. So really, thank you very much for going through all of that. Lots to digest from all of our speakers there. So please remember that all of those slides will be on our Smart Networks portal in the next few days, and also the video of this session will be there as well if you want to watch that back. So again, as Nathaniel said, just to repeat, please do head over to the Smart Networks portal. You've heard all about the challenges from Guy, from Jodie, from Sam as well, but also just how invested, not just Ofgem, but ESE, UKRI understandably, but also ENA and the networks are in getting the right innovations forward and making sure we can make that energy transition. So just to leave you in summary, I would say today's all about participation. We really want to identify the IP that you can bring to these solutions to help solve the problem. So as Nathaniel said today, it's all about understanding the problems and the challenges. Use this time, use the break time to prod and probe, ask questions, talk to the networks and understand what they're thinking. Don't be concerned about the funding streams at the moment. It's important to know what they are, but at this stage it's all about your idea, and the idea can be funneled into a number of different funding streams. As Jodie said, there are multiple windows now for applications into SIF, so don't be too concerned about those timelines. It's about the idea, focus on the idea. Head over to the Smart Networks portal where you can find out all this information, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, participate and engage today. And that starts now with our break and refreshments. The first session will start at 11:40, that's in this room, and the 2 rooms downstairs on the ground floor. So go get yourselves a coffee, start having those conversations, recharge, and we'll see you at 11:40. Thank you.